And so the first question I want to ask today are kind of like three questions that I was thinking about in thinking about this sermon this morning. The first question is, why does our inner world need healing? Because we're talking about healing today based on verse 3. He heals the brokenhearted and he binds up their wounds. This would be really good to go back and think about all the sermons in this series. And to go back, and if you haven't yet, to read through the book of Psalms. It's a lengthy book, but it's well worth your reading. That the book of Psalms indeed shows us all of the things that have gone in our hearts and lives. It starts off with Psalm 1, where it says, blessed is this one who walks in the way of the Lord and meditates on God's word. That person is going to be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of water, whose leaf always stays green. He's always producing fruit. She's always producing fruit, this person who walks with God. And then it develops, the book of Psalms does, into the story of this account of people who are heartbroken. People who suffer, as we've heard the past several weeks. People who go through lament. People who go through disappointment. People who are disappointed with their circumstances that they face. People who are disappointed with what they perceive that God has somehow let them down. Our world is filled with hurting people, and amongst them are believers ourselves. And the book of Psalms calls us to take a good look at what's going in our heart and to say to ourselves, indeed we need healing. Yeah. Remember the story of the Pharisees, which we started with. Jesus said, you guys don't have any need of a physician because you think you're well. If you think you're well, you're not going to go to the doctor, right? If you think everything's fine, if you think you're checking all the boxes and you're good, you're not going to spend any time looking on the inside to see what's really going on in your heart, right? The Psalms take us by our hand and lead us to that deep place inside of us where we know we're broken, where we know we're hurting. Some of us are super good at hiding all those things, right? Some of us just are super good. You can talk to us for hours on end and you'll never know the hurt. You'll never know the pain. And some of the reason is because, if I share my pain with you, maybe you won't think I'm such a good guy anymore. Or maybe you think that, oh, wow, that's a weird thing that he struggles with. I don't want to talk about that, right? Or something along those lines. And so we put on an act, and we put on a face, and we don't ever look inside of what's going on in our hearts. Now, these things are very personal. And you should only talk to people who you trust, right? But I would think, and I would pray, that the church, the Brook, be a place of trustworthy people. Be a place where people can talk to each other about what's going on. That's a goal, right? That's part of the plan. It's not, we just don't have a building to go to and we have this big great service, but we do life together, right? And we share our lives together and we walk through life together. And there are days and there are weeks and there are seasons of life which are hard and which are difficult, and I'm not sure which way to turn. And we ought to be free or have someone within our church family with whom we can share these things. Our inner world needs healing because we live in a broken world. And we've experienced it kind of on a universal level as we look at the world outside of us and all the bad things going on. And we've also experienced at an inner level. We've experienced that hurt. We've experienced that disappointment. And maybe even disappointment with God. Because, man, I thought my life was going to be so different, some say. I thought it was just going to be totally different. And I got this life instead of that life. I wanted that life, but God gave me this life. And so now I'm disappointed with God. And so that clutters my inner soul, right? And my inner world and what's going on. And those things are painful. We have to adjust them. We have to talk to God. And we have to make sure we have godly counsel. And we have to make sure that we put ourselves and our inner world in a place where we get and experience healing. If there is anything you hear from this message today, what I want you to hear are the words of verse 3. He heals the brokenhearted, and he binds up their wounds. Are you willing today to receive God's healing? Are you honest enough Not before me or before some leader in the church, but are you honest enough before God to say, God, I need your healing. I want your healing. My heart is broken. I want that to be the thing that lasts with us today. So our world needs healing. We need healing. Our inner world needs healing because of everything that's taught in the Psalms and everything that's taught in the Bible. The Bible, if life were easy, the Bible would be one page. The Bible is 66 books long. If you have read it, you know it is long and it is complex and it is super fascinating, of course, but it's complex for a reason because life is complex. Now, the message of the gospel is simple and straightforward, and you can preach the gospel in a minute, but the thought is that living this life that God has called us to is a complex thing. And so we do the work of tending to our inner world by acknowledging that we need healing.